his integrity was now challenged. And unfortunately, the way that story comes to a close is Joseph gets thrown into prison. Hey, so in part one, we saw that Joseph had these dreams, and there were three things that we took away from that. Where that story actually ends is his brothers get so jealous of him that they throw him in a pit, beat him up, and want to leave him for dead. But his oldest brother speaks up and says, no, let's not do that. Let's spare his life. And so they say, well, look, here comes some slave traders. Let's give Joseph into slavery. I don't know, death, slavery? Joseph ends up in slavery, and we look at this, and what I want to focus on here is Joseph's consistency. So in chapter 39 of Genesis, verses 2 through 5, it says this: the Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered. He lived in the house of the Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything that he owned. From that time, he was put in charge of his household and all that he owned, and the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian house because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. I think it's absolutely incredible that the favor that Joseph had on his life was tangible and contagious to those around him. So much so that the Egyptian king put Joseph in charge because he knew that God's favor and blessing was on Joseph. Uncle Ben from Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility, and Joseph is found in a moment here where he has great power. He's promoted to number 2 in the entire kingdom. In Luke 12:48, Jesus actually says, everyone to whom much is given, much will be required. They will demand the more, those that are entrusted with much. Joseph was given great favor from God because he stayed consistent. He kept his integrity from even a young age until now. Because of this, he was given much, and everything that he touched was blessed. Enter our interruption. So Joseph was a dime piece. Like the Bible says that he was handsome in form, his appearance was great, like he was a 10. And the king's wife took notice of him and said, hey, Joseph, I want some of that. And so what happened was she tries to pin him and corner him in her room, and Joseph runs and he flees, but she grabbed his cloak. And what that picture got painted as was Joseph was trying to take advantage of her. His integrity was now challenged. And unfortunately, the way that story comes to a close is Joseph gets thrown into prison. But if you read on into verse 20, you see that even while Joseph is in prison, it says that the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. The warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in anything and everything that he did. Joseph's consistency, no matter where he was, if he was in a pit, if he was in slavery, if he was in the king's house, or he was in prison, he stayed consistent. He stayed integral. And I think what we can learn from this is even in your interruption, stay consistent.